What is up, guys? This is your head coach Kuya Kyle for Smash Ultimate, and for today's for today's class, we're gonna go over how to easily beat some annoying characters, starting with Ness and Little Mac. So tips to win against Ness and Little Mac. This will be a general guide on how to beat common pain point characters, starting with the two aforementioned champs. If you want to see tips against a certain character, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to give some insight on how to beat certain characters. We're gonna have a preface. We're gonna go over Ness's strengths, tips against Ness, then Lil Mac's strengths, and then tips against Lil Mac. So a quick preface is to go over the word annoying. I personally don't like using this word, but I couldn't really think of anything else to use. When talking about quote annoying characters, please turn your negative emotions into something a bit more of an opportunity to learn or grow in the game. If you struggle in a certain matchup, that is a perfect time to level up. Identify why you think they're annoying and what you can do to counter that. Another note is if you are a Ness main or Lil Mac main, I've worked with a lot of people. I've have over like 200 clients, and no matter who you play in this game, someone in the world is gonna find your main annoying no matter what. So if you are one of those types of people that kind of gets discouraged when people refer to your main as annoying, it's everyone. Everyone, there's gonna be somebody that just does not like your character for whatever reason, and it's out of your control. It's an external factor. So what is more important is to focus on yourself, because that's something that you can control, is to focus on improving rather than being worried about what others may say about your character. So nothing but love for any character you play as. I'm here to support you, but I'm also here to show insights on how to beat any character in the game. So that's my little preface. Starting off with Ness, some strengths, not every strength because this isn't a whole character guide just on Ness, but three main strengths that Ness has. He has excellent aerials. He has very auto cancelable or actionable before landing aerials, which means you could spam a lot of attacks in the air very easily. You have excellent projectiles. Most casuals are terrified of PK fire. If I talk to someone that doesn't play Smash too much, they are already aware of Ness PK fire. Like that's just something that's embedded into their brain. And lastly, Ness has excellent edge guarding potential. So his aerials are great for edge guarding. His yo-yo is great for edge guarding because you could have the yo-yo kind of dip underneath the ledge. So if people are trying to grab ledge and the yo-yo hitboxes out, they'll meet the yo-yo first and they'll probably get knocked out for it. They have PK Thunder, which is a self-controlled projectile, so it's really easy to edge guard with that. And there's a lot of other fun stuff that you could do. The first tip that I have against Ness is to identify how to whiff punish their aerials. Most Ness players will be throwing out a lot of nairs and fairs for the majority of the match. So with that in mind, try to get a read of how they like to spam aerials and position yourself to punish after they miss. If you look at the video here, this is how I would probably play as Ness, by throwing out a lot of fairs and nairs in the air. And you can see how you're getting around 2 to 3 fairs from their double jump. So if you see them whiff the first one, just be ready for them to throw out a second one, or maybe even like a double jump and they throw out like more nairs and fairs. Most Nesses will play like this just because it's a great option. It's something that they really like to do. So something that you as the opponent against a Ness throwing out a lot of aerials is kind of let them throw it out, or position yourself in a way to not get hit by either this forward reaching fair or like the spinning nair, and then punishing them for missing. Another option that you have if you have disjoints or if you're directly below them is to anti-air them. Because they're in the air a lot, they can't shield. So if you have a good aerial that is great for anti-airing, or even like a tilt attack that's great for punishing people that are jumping a lot, try to prioritize those moves in a match against Ness. The second tip that I have for people struggling against Ness is reacting to PK fire, because this move is just so terrifying for some reason. When reality is pretty simple. Many players kind of give up at the sight of PK Fire, but identify at first if Ness is grounded, PK Fire flies straight. If Ness is airborne, PK Fire flies at a down 45-degree angle. Most Ness players will space their side B so you get hit from the last parts of the move. So like if you're doing a grounded PK Fire, they're not gonna hit you when you're this close to them. They're gonna aim if you're over here, because they want to like kind of get as much range as they can from it. So with that in mind, if you know their PK Fire habit, like if they're in this type of like spacing from you, and they'll most likely throw out PK Fire, time your jump to approach when they throw it out. Call it out because there's a lot of startup time for PK Fire, and because it covers this low area, this is a perfect time to jump in and get an accordingly appropriate punish. The aerial version of PK Fire is a little bit harder to call out, to be honest, but it's kind of the same deal where if you think that they're going to jump in PK Fire, you could try to meet them up there and hit them in front of them just because PK Fire is coming down at this angle. So this airspace here is free. Or if you feel a little brave, you could duck and run under it and then punch them from under like that. And lastly, my last tip is to, oh my gosh, that's repetitive. My last tip is to Edgeguard the Edgeguarder. Ness has a good recovery, assuming that they can air dodge to the ledge. If Ness has to use PK Thunder to recover, this is an amazing time to Edgeguard. If you hit the PK Thunder, or if you get hit by the main ball, it makes Ness's recovery null and void because Ness becomes, or goes into free fall after the up B goes away. So let's watch here. So toss him off stage, knock him one more time. There's a position where Ness is forced to do an up B. The PK Thunder comes out. The cart eats the PK Thunder, and now Ness has to fall to the ground or to the blast zone. If you're able to recognize if Ness has to commit to an up B, you could also like try to drop down and smack them with an aerial, because they are kind of pausing in the air here for you, which gives you a good chunk of time to hit them. And also, this one is probably not preferred, but if you have low percent, if you get hit by PK Thunder 2, which is basically when Ness hits himself with the PK Thunder and he does like that rocket. Some people call it PK Rocket, some people call it PK Cannonball. I could not find the actual name for it, so we're calling it PK Thunder 2. If you get hit by that move, Ness's distance gets cut in half. So you could just take damage intentionally if you know that they can't make it if their distance is halved. So whenever you see Ness off stage, think to yourself, do they have to use PK Fire? And if yes, edgeguard them. Like really pressure them when they're in that position. Okay, let's go to Little Mac. Little Mac's strengths is that he has some of the best grounded normal frame data in the game. He has a frame 1 jab, a frame 3 down tilt, and a frame 3 up B, which is all fantastic. Like any character would kill for that. He has super armor on smash attacks. So super armor is basically you don't flinch when you take damage while you're doing the move. And the super armor timing is kind of right before Lil Mac swings. So just keep, it's not like right when he starts it. The frame, it's like a 5-frame super armor window, but it's right before he swings is when his super armor comes out. And another quick tip, if you don't know, is Lil Mac's forward smash. If you angle it down, it does a lot of shield damage. So some Lil Mac mains will intentionally go for the angle down F smash to try to break some shields. And the last strength that Lil Mac has is his iconic KO punch, where if used properly, you get a free stock, basically. It's like his comeback mechanic, and we'll go over more about KO punch later in today's class. The first tip is to take to the skies. Lil Mac's strengths are rooted to the ground and can rack up damage easily if you play on his terms, which is like very grounded gameplay. you could relieve a lot of pressure by simply playing more vertically to avoid his bread and butters. So that means jumping more. That means maybe doing combos that sends him more up rather than sideways, or using platforms to your advantage a little bit more. Because that makes Lil Mac already play on the back foot where he has to think about ways to approach you when you have the high ground. And I feel like Lil Mac is one of those few characters where having the high ground is very good, because we know that Lil Mac's aerials are really bad. Next up, oh yeah, I said this already. You want to focus on combos that send Lil Mac up to force him in disadvantageous positions. Remember, he is strongest on the ground, so keeping him away from the ground is really good. Really simple rule. And lastly, if you have this guy off stage, edgeguard him all the time, no matter what. He's known to have a really bad recovery, so like that's a gimme. Tip number 2 is to not trade with smash attacks. I see a lot of players thinking that they can mash buttons with Lil Mac, and they get punished more and more because they think they can challenge smash attacks. When Lil Mac mains, they know that they have super armor. So what they're thinking is that I know that my opponent's gonna swing. I'm gonna charge an F smash and time it so that I don't flinch because of super armor, and I do 32 to them. And that is a worthwhile trade in their book. What you want to do instead of trading or like just butting heads with Lil Mac is to let them miss, let them whiff their smash attack, and then punish, because you don't really want to punch through a boxer punching. Up smash is minus 23 on shield, which is like a third of a second. The first hit of down smash is also a third of a second, and the second hit is 16, but that's pretty rare. Forward smash is minus 16, and angled down F smash is minus 13. So if you successfully shield their smash attack, you have a good chunk of time to punish them. I would say if it's a down smash or an up smash, you could get a pretty big punish. But if it's F smash, try to go for a more faster out of shield option if you shield it, or if you like dodge or jump over it, you should have time to punish them easily. This is what it looks like when you try to trade with Lil Mac. You see my forward tilt comes out, and then the super armor blocks it or negates the flinch, and then I take more damage for it. And the last tip, we're going to talk about KO punch as kind of like a concept. So when Lil Mac's power meter is filled, he will gain access to KO punch, which is an unblockable uppercut. Keep in mind, unblockable, so you do not want to sit in shield when they have it. That can reliably KO at 35%. Maybe even earlier, depending how heavy your character is. If Lil Mac gets hit by any move that puts him in a tumble state, after having the KO punch like 100% for 4 seconds, he'll lose the KO punch and the bar will reset back to 0. So with that in mind, you really want to, well, 1, don't get hit by the KO punch, but 2, staying mobile so Lil Mac has a harder time tracing where to put his KO punch, because he only has 1 bullet in the chamber for this one, so he has to make it count. Do not sit in shield, because that is unblockable, and that's what they want you to do. Use projectiles if you have them, just because if you have a pretty cheap low committal projectile that kind of tags them out and puts them in tumble, that's a free get out of jail free card, because KO punch is just terrifying to deal with. So if you do have a projectile, try to chip away at Lil Mac, and they might lose it. And try to land a quick hit. So what I mean by this is, let's say you're both at high percents and they have KO punch. You might want to briefly address the priority, which is KO punch, instead of taking Lil Mac's stock. So you find yourself in a position where jab might be worth it, like a quick jab to surprise the Lil Mac. They're not expecting it. Sure, it won't KO the Lil Mac, but it takes away their win condition, which is a KO punch. So just think about what moves can you use to kind of outspeed Lil Mac, so that if he doesn't have an option to go for KO punch anymore. So he has KO punch, put him in tumble, and now he doesn't have it anymore. And that is everything for today. So we'll do a quick recap before I skedaddle on out of here. So today is a class about how to win against Ness and Little Mac. Ness's strengths include having excellent aerials, having excellent projectiles, and having excellent edge guarding potential. The first tip is to practice with punishing his aerials because most Nesses will spam a lot of nairs and fairs. The second tip is reacting to PK Fire because there's a lot of startup time with PK Fire. You're able to either jump over it or position yourself in a way to punish him when going for a PK Fire. And tip number 3 is to edge guard Ness as best as you can if you know that they have the commit to PK Thunder. Lil Mac's strengths include having some of the best grounded normal frame data in the game, having super armor on his smash attacks, and having access to his KO punch. The first tip is to take Lil Mac to the skies because his strengths are rooted to the ground, so taking away his main strength is a big plus. Tip number 2 is to not trade with smash attacks because Lil Mac has super armor and that's what they want you to do, to swing into their smash attacks. And lastly, tip number 3 is KO Punch Counterplay. If you know that they're sitting on KO Punch for more than 4 seconds, knocking them into tumble will make them lose a KO Punch. Thank you all for watching and I hope you have a wonderful day.